It is Thursday. Welcome in. This is Three Man Front on Jocks. Pat Landrum, Molly Landrum covering the high school basketball state championships. He'll be out today. Be with us a little bit tomorrow as he'll be behind the mic for the high school basketball championships going down at Legacy Arena. A lot of basketball that we'll get into today. We'll also spend some time talking about spring football. South Carolina is on the field. Florida is on the field. So we'll go to South Carolina, find out the very latest, see if Shane Beamer's hot seat is getting a little bit warmer. Also go down to Gainesville, Florida, find out what's happening with John Sumrall and the Florida Gators program. A little programming note. Next week, the head football coach of the Florida Gators, John Sumrall, will be on this program next Wednesday, as we'll get to ask the main man himself how his tenure is going down in the wonderful Gatorland, also known as Gainesville.
Are we allowed to wear Gators merch that day?
I think so.
I didn't know if we had earned it or not.
But I'll have to double check that.
That'll be a lot of fun, though. It'll be very exciting to hear from him, and he's been doing the media circuit a lot lately and had a lot to say and a lot of expectations for that program. So we'll have a lot of fun talking with him next week. Scott
Hamilton will join the show at 10:30. Award-winning columnist, also does some radio for our sister station in Columbia, South Carolina. Rodney Orr from Tider Insider, Rob Pate. They're in normal spots on Thursday. David Waters from the Gators Breakdown podcast will join us at 12 noon. But we start with basketball last night. It was a very limited schedule in the Southeastern Conference. We'll get to that in a moment. But our hometown Blazers, big game on the road last night. We were kind of joking around yesterday, Conrad, before we left here, is that it was a must-win for UAB. UAB is trying to secure themselves a double bye in the upcoming American Conference basketball tournament, which is going to be played right here in Birmingham at Legacy Arena. And it's been a very weird season where UAB has not lost a game in conference play on the road. And the team that they were tied with going into last night's game, the Charlotte 49ers, they were hosting the Blazers. And we're kind of joking around like, man, would that not be something if the one time this year that you needed to get that road win, you didn't get it, and the Blazers got it?
Yes, they did. And no short thanks to going 20 for 20, 100% accuracy from the free throw line. That'll win you a lot of basketball games, and certainly one that they needed last night. So that was great for Coach Andy Kennedy and the Blazers.
Yeah, Chance Westry had 20 points. He had 11 assists and 8 rebounds, so he almost had a triple-double, which was pretty good. Evan Chapman recorded 19 points, 9 rebounds. He's really been really good for the Blazers down the stretch. But here's the stat that will really blow your mind. Outside of the 20 for 20 from the charity stripe, the Blazers scored their last 16 possessions that they touched the ball, the Blazers scored.
That's a good way to win a basketball game in the second half.
16 of their last possessions in the basketball game, they walked away with points.
And it felt like, because, I mean, I know you were working the game and helping out with the broadcast, but I was watching it on TV, and you know, you could tell a little bit in the second half after it got started, Andy Kennedy, he's getting a little frustrated with his guys, and they weren't quite executing the way he wanted.
By the way, he's been frustrated all year long.
Well, yes, to be fair, yes, that is certainly the case. But it seemed like after maybe some of that frustration kind of came out a little bit, that the guys rallied around, and like you said, scoring on 16 straight possessions, they figured something out when they needed to.
They sure did. Perfect conference road record for the Blazers. They went 9-0 in the American Conference. Do you realize that that is only the second team in American Conference history to ever go undefeated in league play on the road?
If you had asked me, I would have guessed that they were the only team to do that, because you just don't see that happen very often.
Well,
that's incredible.
Let me tell you the team that did it before them.
Was it the FAU team that went to the Final Four?
No, it was another good one. The 2022-23 Houston Cougars.
Okay, yeah, they were good.
Oh, yeah.
They were real good.
When Houston used to be in the American Conference. So, yeah, they did it. So the Blazers go 10-2 on the road for the whole year, for the regular season.
It's incredible.
They went 10-2 on the road. They won 10 games in a row on the road, which that now ties a school record that was set back in 2015 for the Blazers. They're inching towards a top 4 seed. There's still some playoff scenarios that's out there. Depends on FAU's game coming up this weekend. But Sunday's game at Bartow Arena against East Carolina, before tip-off, the Blazers will know where they stand.
Yeah.
In regards to the seeding that is going to take place in Birmingham. So the Blazers now 19-11 on the season, 10-7 in the American Conference. And then you say, well, what if they had beaten Tulane, they lost in a close game, or they lost to North Texas at home.
Yep,
in a
just
close
one more
game.
win. You'd be secure.
Then all of a sudden, who knows what could have happened. But the Blazers, at least now, on the cusp of getting that double bye, and that'll be huge. That means that they won't have to play until Friday in their home city.
Correct. And the good news, I guess, right, is that the conference tournament is at Legacy Arena. So it's a neutral site, right? So that's more of a...
It's not technically a home game.
It's technically not a home game, so that's a good thing. And we had people on the morning show chiming in saying, man, we're going to... Maybe on Sunday we need to dress up in purple and gold, and that'll give it that road atmosphere in Bartow for UAB since they've struggled at home. But technically a kind of semi-road game for the conference tournament, so that's good for UAB.
Absolutely. Last night, a limited schedule in the Southeastern Conference. This was not a shock at all. Arkansas takes Texas to the woodshed, 105-85. The Hogs jumped out on a 19-4 run, and that just pretty much ended it in the first half. Arkansas had 4 plays in double-digit scoring. Darius Acuff Jr., senior forward, Trevin Brazil, they had 28 points apiece. So now the Razorbacks are pretty solid in that number 3 seed position for Nashville, unless Auburn beats Alabama.
And then they'll go to 2, Alabama fall to 3.
Yeah, but the Razorbacks, 22-8, 12-5 in the SEC. Longhorns now are looking at a 7 seed in Nashville next week with an 18-12 record, 9-8 in the SEC. So that sets the docket for the upcoming weekend in the conference, and that, of course, is the big one being highlighted with the Auburn game against Alabama.
Yeah, and if you mentioned it, if you look at the latest bracketology, Texas now in the last 4 buys category, you just said kind of trending towards the 7 seed there. And we know with Arkansas, if they're playing a Mizzou team that needs a big win to kind of cap off the regular season, really secure their spot in the NCAA tournament. And depending on what happens there, that affects Alabama. But yes, I think a lot of eyes, obviously in this state, but I think around the South will be on that Alabama-Auburn game, more so for Auburn, right? Because I think the belief now, we talked to Rocco yesterday, if you're Auburn, you win that game, you're probably in the tournament. You lose that game, we'll see you next season. Well, I guess we'll see you in Nashville, and then we'll see you next season. So a lot on the line this weekend as the regular season comes to a close. It feels like it's gone by so fast.
It has, especially over the last month or so. And I guess because the college football season lasts a lot longer now in regards to the national championship game, so it's more compact in regards to us looking at March Madness. So last night you had Houston. They won against Baylor. Purdue, man, that got a little hairy there for the Boilermakers, but they were able to beat Northwestern last night. You had Ohio State winning, New Mexico won, and as we mentioned, Texas with a loss and SMU with a loss last night. So if you take a look at Joe Lunardi's very latest projections, VCU is now the team right in front of Auburn because VCU
Indiana clobbered Minnesota last night, and so
Indiana jumped up.
Yeah.
So now they're part of the last 4 in, whereas Auburn did not go up. They did not go down. Still, again, if they beat Alabama on Saturday, then they're in. It's as simple as that.
It's a quad 1 win. It's a road win against a top 25 program. And then, as we've mentioned, right, you can then go and say in front of the committee, if you're making an argument, well, who's the team that's beaten Florida, Alabama, Arkansas, and Kentucky? That would be the Auburn Tigers. So we'll see if they can pull it off on Saturday. It'd be a big upset for them.
Yep, there'll be a lot of drama going into that. Senior night for Alabama. Alabama trying to overcome that loss midweek against Georgia. Auburn's postseason hopes hanging on the vine. So a lot going on for Saturday night there at Coleman Coliseum. We don't speak a lot about women's basketball, but it is that time of the year that we pay a little bit closer attention to it on this program. And both Alabama and Auburn women's basketball got wins yesterday in Greenville, South Carolina at the tournament. Auburn entered the tournament as the 15 seed. They knocked off the 10 seed Texas A&M 50-49, so they advanced past the first round. Katie Lee, one of Auburn's top 3 scorers on the roster, she scored the game winner with 5.3 seconds remaining for the Tigers. The win improves Auburn's record to 15-16 on the season. They will play number 7 Ole Miss tonight at 6 o'clock. Meanwhile, Alabama, they're the 11 seed in the SEC tournament. They down number 14 Missouri 65-48. The Crimson Tide advanced to the tournament for the first time since 2022. So they've always been one and done in the SEC tournament. So they get a win, which means now they will play the Tennessee Volunteers tonight, the 6th seed. That will air right after the Auburn game. So for Auburn and Alabama women's basketball fans, you got a double dip tonight that you can watch on the SEC network.
And I saw an interesting story where Tennessee actually had a player step away from the program
After senior night.
because she did not feel, I guess, that she was honored appropriately on senior night or got an opportunity to be on the I didn't see all the details of it, but I just thought it's very interesting this late in the season to see somebody. It's not like a Chad Baker Mazzara situation where it felt like enough was enough and they were just kind of tired of him. It felt like she decided I need to step away from this program. So just kind of maybe a little distraction there for the team, something you don't typically see this late in the season.
Yeah, I saw the media in Tennessee ask the head coach 3 or 4 questions yesterday about this particular situation, and she said she didn't see it coming. And they asked her, well, why do you think she stepped away at this juncture of the season? And the head coach said, the only thing that I can think of is playing time. So
it's kind of odd that you would stick it out this long and then step away, but I'm sure she had her reasons, and that was enough for her.
A little bit of Alabama football news came out yesterday afternoon, courtesy of Bama 247. Our friends over there, Mike Rodak and Alex Scarborough. Those folks do a nice job covering the Alabama football and basketball programs. Alabama's going to be without freshman all-SEC team selection when it opens spring practice on Sunday. Kalen DeBoer told Bama 247 on Wednesday that London Simmons will be out as he recovers from an injury. It's not expected to impact his availability for the start of the season. Simmons played every game last season. He made 2 starts, recorded 19 tackles, 1.5 sacks. Also out for the spring will be often used reserve offensive lineman William Sanders. He's recovering from a back injury. And also backup tight end Danny Lewis. Danny Lewis was often injured last year. His name was on the injury report almost every week.
I was about to say, that's one of those guys you feel bad for. He's been a part of the program for a long time and for whatever reason just can't stay healthy. I think the London Simmons one, obviously you want him to continue to develop, but I think we all know that's a guy that's going to contribute quite frequently for this defensive line this year and really impressed last year as a freshman. But I think William Sanders, that's kind of the one that sticks out to me just because you've got so many new faces on the offensive line. You've got so many young guys jockeying for position, and you just hope that it doesn't hold back his development too much because I know that's, obviously somebody that they had high hopes for and was going to try to fight for a start on the or starting position there. So,
yeah, Sanders logged 177 snaps on the offense last season. He is expected, as Conrad's mentioned, to potentially battle for his starting job at offensive guard. So we'll see what happens there. Also, not reading a lot into this, but star defensive back Bray Hubbard and Zabian Brown, they will begin spring in a limited capacity.
They'll be fine.
DeBoer said.
They'll be fine.
So
get some of the young guys some those are 2 guys that I would look at and go,
you're good.
I trust that they'll be ready to go for the season, and you've got some, high touted recruits that could use maybe some extra reps and get up to speed. So that's not a big deal in my opinion.
When we come back on 3-Man Front, we'll talk about a passing of a college football icon. Lou Holtz passed away yesterday. We'll talk about him and his impact on the game of college football. All that straight ahead on Jocks. It is 10:18 here on Jocks on an absolutely gorgeous day. Hope everyone's having a good start to your Thursday. 1-800-239-WJOX. Our text line, always open, always entertaining as well, 205-834-9450.
Well, with flu season hanging around and pollen season coming, make your home healthier with Trane's Clean Effects Home Air Cleaner. It removes up to 99.9% of airborne particles that cause allergy, and virus is 100 times more effective than standard air filters and 8 times more effective than HEPA room filters. So go and find a dealer near you at Trane.com.
It was a sad afternoon yesterday. Most of us knew the day was coming, unfortunately, that Lou Holtz passed away at the age of 89 years old. He had been in hospice here of recent note. He turned 89 about a month ago, I believe, but he passed away in Orlando. Holtz went 249, 132, and 7 over his career. Spanned 33 seasons, included stops at Minnesota, Arkansas, South Carolina, obviously most notably Notre Dame. He won the national championship at Notre Dame back in 1988. Holtz is the only college football coach to lead 6 different programs to a bowl game, and the only coach to guide 4 different programs to a final top 15 ranking. His 1988 and 1989 teams in South Bend won a school record 23 consecutive games, and he beat 3 teams ranked number 1 during that time frame. Beat number 1 Miami in 88, Colorado in 89, and Florida State in 1993. That Florida State game was the game of the century. And I know FSU Dave listens intently every day on this program, and he remembers that game very well, which was played up in South Bend, Indiana. That was the first college football game that I ever covered.
Oh, wow.
In my career was the game in South Bend between Florida State and Notre Dame. It was first college football game that I worked.
He was also the coach for Catholics versus Convicts, correct?
On
the Notre
correct.
Dame side? Yeah.
Absolutely. The Irish finished number 2 in the AP poll back in 1993. Holtz left South Bend after the 1996 season with a record of 130-2, which is third now all-time at Notre Dame. It's just a shame that Brian Kelly is ahead of him.
I'll be honest. I knew Newt Rockne was going to be. I thought it was Newt Rockne, and then when I was doing some research, I was like, "Oh, it's actually Brian Kelly that has the most wins."
It's nuts. But if you don't know a lot about Lou Holtz's career, a lot of our newer listeners, I know that he's kind of a parody at times. You know,
see, I grew up watching him on College Football Final with Mark May and Reese Davis.
Right. So Holtz had a stint in the NFL for 1 season in 1976 with the New York Jets. He resigned because the Jets went 3-10. And so he resigned. Mm-hmm. He famously said after he resigned, God did not put Lou Holtz on this earth to coach in the pros. What a great quote.
He was the king of the one-liner.
He was. So he left the Jets. That opened the door for him to go to Arkansas. Arkansas back then, they were a member of the Southwest Conference. And Arkansas, he goes there, takes them into the AP Top 25. He went 60-21 in Fayetteville, and then he leaves Arkansas and he heads to Minnesota for a couple years before he gets the job at South Bend. And then right after South Bend, that's when he went off and did TV for CBS, and he vowed he would never coach again. He said, I'm done. I'm finished. Like, you can put it in granite, he said. Like, I will never coach again in the college game. Well, guess what happened? South Carolina called, and then in 1999, he took over the job there in South Carolina. And despite posting an 0-11 record, 0-11 at South Carolina in his first season, Holtz then went 17-7 the next 2 years in Columbia, including the number 2 team in the SEC East in that second year. So it was an incredible turnaround. He even beat number 9 Georgia in the second game of 2000. He also beat Ohio State twice in the Outback Bowl. So he did have a little bit of success there at South Carolina. He left the sideline for good back in 2004. He returned to the airwaves, and he worked 11 more seasons with ESPN. As you said, most people remember him with Mark May and Reese Davis.
That was such a great show.
And what they did for college football. I've had many interactions with Lou Holtz. Great guy. Booked him many times for the Paul Feinbaum Show. In the later years, I had an opportunity. He spoke at Coach Bill Clark's Coach Safely, the football kickoff. Mm-hmm. He and Paul Feinbaum did the event a couple years ago. This last year, it was Tommy Tuberville and Paul. A couple years ago, it was Paul and Lou Holtz. And Lou Holtz was having problems getting around mobility wise, but he was sharp as a tack. I mean, he entertained everyone at the Vestavia Hills Country Club. I mean, it was a great night with Coach Lou Holtz, and it was an honor to be able to know him professionally and be around him. And needless to say, Skip Holtz, one of our favorite people on this show, we got to know Skip really well when he was the head coach of the Birmingham Stallions. He was on this program each and every week, and just feel for Skip. Prayers go out to Skip and the whole Holtz family for losing Lou Holtz, who passed away yesterday.
Yeah, and there's no doubt he's one of the most iconic figures in the history of college football, and even for somebody my age and maybe having a different perspective on him, again, as more of a TV personality than as a coach during my lifetime, no doubt the impact that he made is will last for a long time, and his legacy will live on for a very, very long time. And yeah, thoughts and prayers with Skip and the rest of the family, because this is never easy.
Back in 1999, like when he came out and he took the South Carolina job, I remember everyone in the SEC was like, wow, now this is, man, going to South Carolina, this is going to be tough. And then when he goes 0-11 in that first year, you're like going, see?
We told you.
Didn't know if this was going to work out, but man, he did. He got South Carolina the next 2 years, them going 17-7. He turned it around and got that program going in the right direction. And keep in mind, once Lou Holtz stepped aside, you remember who took over after Lou Holtz?
Who was it?
Spurrier.
Was it? Okay, it was right after into Spurrier, because I knew Lou Holtz. He was the first coach to take them. I think he took them to back-to-back, the Outback Bowls and the New Year's Six Bowl, or what we call, I guess now, New Year's Six Bowls. And then he led that into Steve Spurrier, who obviously had a lot of success there.
Sure did. So, yeah. Matter of fact, he beat Lou Holtz beat Ohio State twice in the Outback Bowl.
It's very impressive.
Yeah. So yeah. Sad news is Lou Holtz passed away yesterday at the age of 89. Speaking of South Carolina, when we come back on Three Man Front, we will head to the Palmetto State and talk to Scott Hamilton, longtime columnist there in Charleston. Also works for our sister station now, 107.5 there in Columbia. He joins the program next. Talk a little South Carolina Clemson spring ball. What's going on with South Carolina basketball? Another really bad year for Coach Paris and the Gamecocks. All that straight ahead next on Jocks. There are a handful of SEC teams that are currently on the practice field. Alabama will be on the practice field starting on Sunday. That's right, Sunday. The Mizzou Tigers, they were the first ones on the practice field, followed in by the Florida Gators and the South Carolina Gamecocks, in which that song is heard incessantly there inside Williams-Brice Stadium.
I love Sandstorm.
As South Carolina is now on the practice field. So we thought we would talk about not only some spring ball for the Gamecocks, maybe the Tigers, and just some early thoughts about 2026 for this fall for the teams out of the Palmetto State, but also just he's a good guy and like to spend some time with him. I understand that we just got him out of the weight room. He just did some squats, I understand. I hope you're surviving today, Scott.
I'm jacked, bruh. Don't miss leg day.
Scott Hamilton joins us, longtime columnist, and now I can call you a brother in the Cumulus world.
Yeah, starting next week, man. How about that?
That is fantastic. 107.5 FM, our sister station in Columbia. They do a fantastic job over there. So I know that you will bring a lot to the table. So congratulations on that. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy workout schedule for us today. Let's start with South Carolina spring ball. They got on the practice field this week, and I know Shane Beamer, he's been making the rounds, doing some interviews from here and there. Matter of fact, he was on our radio station just a couple days ago talking about the 2026 edition of this team. Already some bad news out of the gate with some injuries. What's the fan base talking about right now in regards to South Carolina for 2026?
There's like two paths that the fan base is trailing on right now. And one is cautiously optimistic for next year after getting burned in 2025, because that was supposed to be the big year. But now it's like, what the hell is going on with these injuries? I mean, the offensive line from the get-go was the problem last season, and now they're getting guys injured, not only in spring practice, but playing basketball. Like as part of team activities, people are twisting over that. And it's just, it's a weird time to be around that entire athletic department, save for the women. The women's basketball team is like on an island in a silo, while everything else just seems so unstable.
Well, that's where I wanted to go, Scott, was with the offense, because I know you mentioned the basketball injury with Jacarius Peak, the big-time transfer that came over. I know they had another offensive lineman get injured here recently as well. So what should the expectations be for just the offensive side of the ball? Because, I mean, you bring back Lenora Sellers. You have Nick Harbor, who we all know physically at least has the capabilities of maybe being one of the best receivers in the country, but we didn't quite see that development last year. So what are the expectations? Because you got some nice pieces, but clearly it just didn't quite work out last year.
Well, it's got to be better, right? I mean, even with that battered offensive line, the thought was that the system might have been the second biggest issue. Like even if the offensive line had been better, that they couldn't overcome the system that Mike Shula brought in. That Mike Shula brought in a system that not only didn't match the players' skill sets, but might actually just be a bad fit for college football in general. He was trying to install too many pro concepts, and you could see Lenora Sellers thinking too much instead of just playing and letting the game come to him and being natural like he was the year before. People expect better. Kendall Briles obviously is the guy who you would think has the profile to make this offense hum like it should hum, considering the personnel. But people, again, even with the pieces back, even with the new OC, people are just scared to get all in after getting burned so badly last year.
Scott Hamilton joins us, a longtime columnist there in the state of South Carolina and North Carolina. Also, you can hear him starting next week on 107.5 FM there in Columbia. So let's talk about Shane Beamer, because if he felt like the pressure was pretty mounting against him, you would have thought that he would have taken the easy exit ramp, because if he would have given or had blinked his eyelashes in Blacksburg's direction, I would think that Virginia Tech would have hired him in a heartbeat in regards to, instead of going after James Franklin. But he is there in Columbia, I guess, for the long haul. But how long can the fan base and the athletic department put up with a football program that is not competing to the level in which they're paying a lot of money to some players to compete?
I think he's got to put up this year. I mean, going into last year, there were people saying, or year before rather, Pat. I'm sorry. Year before, there were people saying, "Oh, he's on the hot seat and all that." I said, "No, he's not. He's got a good 4-year runway to make this thing happen." But after last year, when they did have the momentum from 2024, when they did have the quarterback return and everything seemed to fall in place, and for it to fall flat, and for him to drag his feet the way he did to a fault, he's loyal to a fault with regards to making staff changes. I think that ramped up the heat considerably. And 9 wins this year, Pat, which in the SEC is that's pretty damn impressive in 2026.
No doubt.
I think that has to be the floor for this team. Maybe 8, depending upon who it is, honestly. But I think that has to be the floor. And talking about the Virginia Tech situation, though, God love his heart, you got to admire his stubborn streak to stay and want to make it work in Columbia. But it was also some intelligence on his part, because if he'd have gone there, he would have been going to work every day with a statue of his father out front. And you can't build your own legacy, man, if you're in the shadow of 8 feet of granite every day reminding you of the standard. You can't do it.
Well, hopefully with Mark Stoops out of the conference, that'll help him out a little bit, because we know that I'm sure. Well, I guess he's at Texas, right, as an analyst, so he's still technically in the conference, but they don't have to face them this year.
But he owned Mark Stoops, though.
Oh, that's true.
That's just it.
Yeah.
He owned Mark Stoops. After Stoops made the stupid sunglasses comment, Shane started dropping the hammer on him. And he might have run Stoopsy off for that much. So, that could be to his detriment, because I think Kentucky's going to be pretty good. I'm not talking national championship or even playoff, but I think they're going to wreck somebody's season at some point. I like the way they've worked the portal. I'm a Will Stein guy. He's exactly what that fan base needs. If I'm playing Kentucky, I'm on red alert each and every week.
No, I'm right there with you. I think Kentucky is maybe a team this year, like you said, maybe they wreck someone's season, and then in 2 years we're talking about them being a big mover in the SEC. But looking at South Carolina's schedule for the upcoming year, you have to go to Alabama, which, to South Carolina's credit, right, they've almost won that game the last 2 years, so maybe this year, 3rd time's the charm against Kalen DeBoer, who knows. But when you look at that, you go to Alabama, you go to Florida, you're at Oklahoma, you get Georgia. We know you have the Clemson game at the end of the year, but when you look at some of those big-time do you think this is a South Carolina team that can compete with some of those big dogs? Because, I mean, if you're talking about 8-9 wins to keep your job, I mean, you have to imagine you're going to have to win a couple of those games against the top-tier competition in the SEC.
I'm curious to see how they do it with Tennessee. That's kind of the great unknown with the new defensive coordinator and all that. A&M, we saw what they could do against A&M for at least a half. Yeah, they were the best team in college football for a half.
That's a great point.
But then the other half, they were awful. It really has to do, and I mean this, the defense is going to be suitable, usable, marginal. The defense is going to be okay. You're not going to have to overcome your defense. It's that offense again. And if they can unlock the cheat codes once more for Lenore Sellers, I mean, anything is possible. You talk about narrowly beating Alabama. Well, think about it. You got peak Lenore Sellers every time.
That's a good point.
If they can unlock that, or if Nick Harbor, God love his heart, if Nick Harbor can just have the fog lift, because there was somebody called Feinbaum the other day, and they were swearing up, down, all around that Nick Harbor was the best receiver in college football, blah, blah, blah. And measurables, yeah. He's Jerry Rice and Calvin Johnson's baby. but there's a difference in being, a Mike Mamula and being like a Steve Largent. If he can actually just have the fog lift and become 10% better as a wide receiver, then I'll be like, holy crap, this team could actually hit that 9-win mark.
All right, so let's go to the other part of the state and the Clemson Tigers. Clemson goes 7-6 with 3 consensus first-round picks, 0 top 10 recruiting classes since 2021 for Dabo Swinney, 0 top 10 rankings in the S&P Plus since 2021. They're no longer on the national stage, although Dabo wants to keep telling and reminding people that. Where's the pressure on Dabo coming into 2026?
Win the ACC, maybe. I mean, honestly, they that's kind of what they talk about. That's the standard, and they set the standard for themselves. But I think winning the ACC might be might have to be what does it, or at least return to the college football playoff, but in a way that's more, I don't know, palatable than they did a couple of years ago when they backed in and then went to Texas and got curb stomped. This is a pivotal time for Clemson football and a pivotal time for Dabo, because you get the sense on one hand that his stubborn self ain't going to go anywhere. They're going to have to pry his cold fingers off the building, off the doorknob. But you also get the sense that he wants to be pushed out, that he's done. It's almost like Saban, if Saban were 58 years old when he walked away. Dabo realizes he's too young to. I mean, he can. He's got more money than any of us will ever have. But it's almost like he wants to have a reason to walk away. You get that sense. And bringing back Chad Morris, I don't know how that cake bakes in 2026. I mean, I get it, being loyal, and I get comfort, and familiarity and all that. But dude, that was over a decade ago, man. A lot's happened, in case you haven't noticed, in college football, in the locker room and on the field over the past 10, 12, 13 years.
So is it safe to say that with, I guess, the fan base mainly, is that goodwill kind of gone? Because I guess I always had the assumption of Dabo until the last couple of years that, that was a guy that, kind of like you were touching on there, he could kind of call his shot on when he wanted to walk away. Like, he could be there for the rest of his life if he wanted to because of what he did for that program. And, I guess maybe Tyler from Spartanburg and that infamous phone call a couple of years ago kind of lit a spark. And, is that goodwill completely gone with the fan base, or are there still portions of them that are holding on to, well, he won a couple of national championships, he can still get us back there?
They appreciate what he did, but you get back. If I would say things about Dabo, and again, I'm not a Dabo fan, I'm not a detractor. As a human being, I think he's outstanding. But when I would criticize Dabo in the past, he would have scores of people to his defense. You don't get that as much anymore. You get a lot of eye rolling now, and a lot of people realizing that, okay, this marriage is not good. The end is coming at some point. Is it going to be sooner rather than later? And what kind of conditions things going to be in when it does happen?
Scott Hamilton for a couple more minutes, a longtime columnist there in the Carolinas. Also, you can hear him starting next week, 107.5 FM there in Columbia, part of the Cumulus family. So welcome aboard. Got to ask you about Lamont Paris and the South Carolina basketball program. He is wrapping up season number 4. Once again, another horrendous SEC record. He had that second season there in Columbia where he went 13-5, but he's only won 31% of his SEC games since he's been there. Basketball program, if it's not a women's basketball team, they're in deep trouble when it comes to the Gamecock basketball program. What are you hearing? Do you think they make the change? Or are they just pretty much set with, okay, the women's team is going to be a national contender every year, not too worried about the men's program?
It's an interesting question, Pat, because what are the two sports that actually make money? It's football and men's basketball.
Yeah.
But it's almost like they don't care about men's basketball at South Carolina. I mean, even if they do get rid of him, who wants that job? They're only pumping in $6 million onto that roster. $6 million gets you one SEC starter. I mean, you can't function like that. I mean, I think about Kentucky, and that might be an extreme example, but what are they paying for their roster? $23 million, and they're middle of the pack. And I know they've had injuries, but still, you get my point.
Yeah, and it's a good point. And just a point of reference, we were told earlier this week, for point of reference, that the Auburn Tigers, which is considered the top 6 in the conference when it comes to basketball payments to the roster, and theirs is around $12 million. So you're talking about a South Carolina roster possibly half of what Auburn is putting in, and look where Auburn is in the standings.
Yeah, Auburn's a bubble team right now.
Right.
A bubble team. But they're not putting the money into it. And also, let's just say this. I mean, it's been poor player evaluation with the money that they do have. They don't have a true point guard. They have a center who only shoots 3-pointers, and they have six players on the roster who are probably unplayable in the SEC. That's just it. And so now you start thinking, okay, it's poor player evaluation, and the players they do have, they don't have enough money to allocate to keep them happy. I just don't know. I don't know that this is a good job, and that's hard for me to say because I am so impressed with how SEC basketball has evolved to where it is in 2025, 2026. considering where it was 10 years ago, 11 years ago when Mike Slive called that meeting and he sought counsel from the guys from the Big East and all that and said, let's get good at basketball. I don't know where South Carolina was when that happened, and now they turn a blind eye. I mean, are they distracted by everything Don Staley's doing? I mean, I don't think so. And I know, and I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit of a tangent here, but I know they have an athletic director who's finishing up his first full year on the job, but I don't know that he makes a change because where do you go? Who do you hire? Who wants that gig? I would rather go somewhere where they're going to give me $10 million and I have a chance to make the NCAA tournament than give me 6 and I know I'm only going to win 3 games.
Scott, I hate to keep piling on South Carolina, but I'm going to do it anyways. Pulmonary, where are we at there with the baseball program? Because at least in my lifetime, and I know I'm younger, but outside of women's basketball, baseball has been, I guess, maybe the most accomplished athletic program there at South Carolina, besides what Don Staley's done. I know you've got the loss to Queens, Northern Kentucky already this year. It seems like, at least what I've seen online, a lot of people are getting fed up with him very quickly and what the results have been this year so far.
He is disconnected. He's disconnected. Ray Tanner left that program in a shambles, which is so ironic and puzzling considering that was his baby. I mean, he birthed it basically and won a couple of College World Series. When it was time to make a coaching hire, and then he goes Pulmonary. Pulmonary was retired. He was out of the game, 5 years?
Yeah, been a minute.
Again, a lot has happened in 5 years. And I'm not just talking NIL transfer portal and all that. I'm talking about the evolution of player evaluation, in-game metrics, analytics. They pay for a system to help them with, launch angle and all those sorts of things that we never dreamed of when we were playing wiffle ball in the yard growing up. He won't even look at them. He won't even look at them. And there's a disconnect between him and his players. There's a disconnect between him and his coaching staff. He was asked the other day, he said, I know everything going on in the program. And then when he was pressed on it, asked about the work that the pitching coach was doing specifically with the pitcher, he had no clue. He had no clue. You have to ask them. You have to ask them. So I have to ask this question. What's more damning, to know or not to know?
Yeah.
If you know and you're not sharing it, well, then you're just a liar. But if you don't know, that's almost as bad because you've been tasked with running this Division I baseball program that has a history and has a loyal fan base, and you're driving it into a ditch. I mean, Pulmonary's a nice guy, but this was not the right direction. Not at all.
Well, I know you would rather be covering championships in the state of South Carolina, but man, you got a lot of material for next week.
No kidding.
Brother, and I just got a text from our buddy Danny Bramlett.
Yeah.
So this ought to be interesting.
Oh, that should be fun. Well, Scott, I will let you. All right. So today was leg day, right? So what else is on the docket?
I'm trying to stretch it. I'm going to the store and I'm going to grill some brats. Harris Teeter has some new brats in their glass. They're making them in-house. They look absolutely fantastic because you got to get protein, bro.
Yeah.
You got to get protein.
No, especially if you're doing all that. Are you still doing the creatine?
Well,
Are you still doing the creatine?
No.
Are you still doing all that?
I was, you know what? When that came out, I was playing semi-pro football with Major Harris, who had quarterbacked at West Virginia.
Yeah, remember Major.
And I had a cramp attack from my head to my toes, and they had to ice me on the sideline. I was, and Mage, I remember Mage looking at me like thought I was, dying. And I'm like, no, mate. I said, it's damn creatine, man. I didn't drink enough water. And here's Mage, he just rolls out there, throws 5 touchdowns, no big deal. And here I am, all, I look like I'm having a seizure.
Man, you just couldn't handle it like Mark McGuire. It's a shame.
That was at he had the androstenedione. Was it Thomas Boswell that saw it up in the locker?
Yeah, that was infamous. People taking pictures of what people are taking and it's in their locker. Yeah, it's good stuff.
This was the same year, or it might have been the year prior. Either way, yeah, I've learned a lot from that. I do hot yoga now.
You and Lane Kiffin both. There you go.
You and Lane.
Lane was onto something there, but my dog is actually mine. It lives with me. I raise it. I feed it.
All right, Scott. Hey, man, always great to catch up. Take care, and we'll chat soon.
Y'all are my people. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
That is Scott Hamilton. He joined us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services. Top of the hour, Rodney Orr, Tighter Insider. All that straight ahead on Jocks. Great conversation with Scott Hamilton. If you missed that interview, you can always download our interviews at the 3 Men Front podcast. You can watch all of our interviews. Yes, watch on YouTube. Hit subscribe, and you can watch us every single day when we're on the program. Today, it's me, Landrum, and Molly. No, not Landrum. You're Conrad. I knew that you.
He did this at the beginning of the show, too. I was going to let that one go. It's fine.
I'm just saying if you're paying attention.
So he's saying I look 10 years older than I am. That's great.
That's what I heard.
That's fine.
I can tell that the last few weeks has really aged you because the fact that you've really taken it personally, how the audience does not like the fact that you did not root for the United States in men's hockey.
It's just interesting because I feel like there's half the audience that wants to deport me and the other half wants to hang out at my pool.
I know. It's kind of weird.
And there's not really much of an in-between there.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit later as, man, it is unstoppable, the text messages we're getting. People that want to be a part of the pool party, Molly.
It's 80 degrees today. I might open it early. Might go home and open the pool. It's a nice day. Look outside.
So we're all going to Conrad's after the show.
Is that what we're doing?
That's what I heard.
That's what I heard.
I guess so. I just got to hook some things up and it'll be fine. It's not filled up. We can just sit around it and look in it.
Just look into an empty pool?
Yeah, it'll be great.
Okay. All right. We're going to go to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. The Alabama Crimson Tide. Spring practice begins Sunday. What's in store for the Tide? Rodney Orr from Tider Insider will join the program next.